right, with it being after 7 o'clock, we'll call the, get a date, April 24th, oh no, excuse me, May 22nd meeting to order. Start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is the minutes, and Deb has read and reviewed them, I believe.
I have.
Both sets, yep.
So, motion for both.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
And Sean.
Hey, Sean.
Hey there. Right, let's see. First order of business is presentation for Stevens Estate. Hi.
So we have,
Jen, the doors are closed.
what's close?
The door on the monitor.
Oh, on the, sorry.
You can't see the pretty pictures. Thank you.
I can probably put up the same ones he's got. Which one are you gonna start with here?
Good evening. Thank you all for coming out. My name is Rich Correa, and I'm affiliated with Elegant Banquets. I'm an advisor to them. I'm not an engineer or anything like that. Just here to give you an overview as to what the proposal is based on the RFP. For everybody here, this is only a concept, so don't, if the architecture isn't quite right, the parking lots aren't right, all of that. It's just a concept as to what it possibly could be.
And just so you know, if there's any butters here, nothing has been approved at town meeting. It was postponed till June. So the town isn't even, it's just the presentation, that's all it is.
Thank you. The group Elegant Banquets, they own 5 facilities. They're basically wedding and banquet centers. They have 5 of them, 4 in Connecticut, 1 in South Salem, New York. The one in New York is called La Chateau, and it's the closest twin to this piece of property, as you will find. They have, it used to be the minister's home for J.P. Morgan, sat on 25 acres, and had a historic mansion on it. And the Stevens Estate, I first saw this property 12 years ago before they ever found that one in South Salem. And I thought this would make a beautiful center to have weddings at, which you've been doing as a community already. And the potential of, the town, making money and having the beautiful estate preserved and try to have as minimal an impact as possible upon the community and actually be a great benefit to the community. Because of the wedding business, they have there's a lot of hotel rooms in the area that get rented. There'll never be anybody staying here. This is just for weddings, bar mitzvahs, proms, and that's it. They're not in the corporate dinner, yes, but a corporate conference, no, that's not their business. And as as we look at this, these plans are changing. With your feedback tonight, we'll change them, and working with the town, and the town's been wonderful to work with thus far. We've engaged TEC, Peter Ellison from there, to help keep everything so it can fit within side yard setbacks and things of that nature. One of the planning an addition onto here, and again, there's a picture here, but that is not a final product at all. That was done just for the RFP to show this is potentially what it could look like. That would be refined, much nicer. The layout and where the parking lot gets, how that gets maneuvered, that'll all come into play. Part of the plan is, the BU addition that's in the front there, that's on the old front of the building, that would come down, and there'd be a new addition built off to the side towards the stables. And then the entryway, instead of it coming in behind the building as it currently does, the plan would be to do a spur and bring people in through the front, and they can see the elegance of the main building again, and truly appreciate it. So the plan we have here, this shows the parking not over here at all, because on that plan up there, that additional parking. They were just going without looking at anything. There was wetlands here, so they moved over here. But this plan won't be like that either. That'll be changed around, because I walked around up there many times, and some great trees and bushes and things that you have to maneuver around. So anything they do would be, maneuvered. The property, the outline of the property, which is what the town meeting would be about, would be to give, from my understanding, the Board of Selectmen the right to enter into negotiation to lease or sell, whatever all of you feel is the right way to do this. The Elegant Banquets people will be investing some $6+ million in renovation. When they do their weddings, the building is designed so that all weddings are inside and none of the windows open. So if any of you are neighbors and you're concerned about hearing a band or anything like that, you won't hear that, because it's all confined inside of the building. They're a great corporate citizen for the community. They have a charitable event for a local organization in each town that they're in. I'm part of Simsbury Main Street Partnership down in Connecticut, and we host our Taste in Simsbury there every year, and we get it for a reduced rate from what it would normally cost to rent a facility like that. And there's a lot of good things of what this project could be over there. And as you look at as you look at that plan, that it won't look like that. It's too much glass, it's too high, all those types of things. But, well, when you have an RFP, you don't know if you're going to win or not win, so you spend some thousands of dollars to show a concept, and then as we get into it with you and the other boards and commissions, you refine it and you make it a much better product, so that at the end of the day, everybody will be happy with it.
And I think the commission had been presented with this plan, which sort of showed the lot carve out, and I'm sure this isn't exact, but
Right.
you can see in that most of it was, almost all of the wetlands were outside of the carved off piece.
Right.
Any questions?
No questions, no comments, no opinion.
Okay. That's fair.
It's a first.
Well, then I won't break your heart. I'm really kind of curious why this is even in front of us tonight.
I think that the
I don't-
town was trying to do outreach prior to the,
The town of North Andover was?
right, prior to the public, to the next town meeting, since this was pushed off and there hadn't been a lot of, you had been provided at the last meeting, I think I gave you all a copy of some of the documents, and this would just give us a forum. I know from the feedback I got at the very first meeting, Joe pointed out that the original parking lot was in the wetland.
Right.
And
Yep.
already there's been sort of a concept change.
Yep.
So we're not really commenting on a project, and I think the vote we had taken prior to town meeting was to accept, at least from the town's perspective, that we would accept the land being donated to the care, custody, and control of the commission that was outside of
That's all we were
this.
asked to do.
Correct.
We weren't asked to make any decision of any kind on the property.
Right.
Or the buildings, or the management, or anything. And it's very unusual for anything to come in front of us like this without a proposal.
Right.
So that's the reason why I said I have no opinion, as far as I'm concerned, that honestly, we shouldn't even be hearing this. Sorry to take that position.
Well, that's the first, actually, it's the second time I saw it. I did see it at town meeting. And they postponed it till June. I'm of the same opinion as Mr. Manzi. I can only act on a building and a set of plans, that what I see, where the wetlands is, where the buffers. What the town does with the building, that's got no concern of mine. So I'll wait, I'm going to wait comment until I see an actual plan. I'm not even interested in how it's built. I mean, I just want the basement plan and go from there.
Okay. No questions or comments, but thank you for the
Okay.
presentation.
Thank you for having us.
Any questions, comments I have would really not be wetlands related, but I may ask anyway. So,
Okay.
What is going to be the relationship between the town and Elegant Banquets concerning the ownership of the property and the leasing of, and/or the leasing of the property?
It's been, the discussions have been both ways, whether the town elects to take the 15.67 acres and say, you can buy it and enter into that negotiation, or we want to maintain ownership of it, cut it outside of your conservation land, and then, you can lease it. And with that in mind, they would have, you still have complete access for all the trails, additional parking for for people to go on the trails. And there'll be a room or two on the second floor that would be dedicated to the history of Moses Stevens and his family.
But concerning the dwellings on the property themselves, they would likely be, ownership would transfer.
It could, or it could be leased.
Or it could be
Either way, if it's a lease, it'd probably be something like a 99-year
Sure.
land lease, and then, so either way, it works for Elegant Banquets, and,
Yep.
Okay.
And Elegant Banquets has looked and think there's a market for that? in this area?
Yes, they've done their market. The one thing they have done is that study was done first. They wouldn't have even submitted a bid if they didn't think there was a market in North Andover.
Yeah, and I think
And at the appropriate time, and I know it's early, but, should we get to that stage, we're inviting the town of North Andover down to see the La Chateau facility or any of the other 4 facilities they have in Connecticut to get an idea and a feel for what the communities and how they enrich the community.
And I think either I read in your paperwork or you stated in your presentation that there's no intention to put any hotel rooms or anything on the
Correct.
property?
None at all. That is not their business. They're very adamant about that. They do one thing and they do it right.
All right. I may have questions once this is officially in front of us, but
Yep.
my interest level has been satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug? I have no questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any abutters want to speak?
Can we speak if we're not about it?
Pardon me?
Can we speak if we're not about it?
You can speak any way you want. You're a resident of North Andover, you can speak. Just if you could go to the podium and say your name and address?
I'm Gerald Brecker, 488 Pleasant Street, and I understand the position that Mr. Manzi and Chairman Napoli are taking on this, and it may be technically correct, but as a taxpayer in the town and a resident, I appreciate every opportunity to find out as much as possible about a particularly significant transaction that's going on in the town. So I'm grateful that it is on your agenda, even if it's not in a mode that requires any action on your part, because I think that informing the town of what's people who live in the town and pay taxes in the town, what's going on with significant transactions is very important. So regardless of whether or not it's an action item for the Conservation Commission tonight, this was the first opportunity, for example, that I've had to get to know this project even to this degree. And I'm wondering, is there a handout of any kind that's...
You can go online and under the Conservation Commission agendas, you could print this off. It's all there.
but is there, these plans, is there
Yep.
more as well?
It's all
Good.
online.
All right, well, and the town put out, by the way, an email to everybody that said, here are the presentation events and the schedule, and this just happened to be the one that I could attend. So I'm happy to have done this and to get a little better understanding of it, and so I'm grateful for your indulging the presenter in letting us all know. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay, I guess we're all set. Thank you. Thank you.
John, do you want me to put those boards back in Jean's office? Okay. What's that? What's, oh, no, I'll get them. You can leave them there. I thought you meant there were more behind me.
Next one is Glenny's Woodlot Land Grant.
Good evening, Vanessa Johnson Hall with Essex County Greenbelt Association. I'm here as more of an administrative item. regarding the Glenny Woodlot property, as you all know, town meeting authorized the town's acquisition of the Glenny Woodlot for $250,000, with $200,000 to come from Community Preservation Act. It also authorized the town to apply for an Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs land grant, land acquisition for natural diversity grant. That's a grant that reimburses the town for up to 60% of the acquisition cost. So if the grant is awarded, that would reimburse the town $150,000 of the acquisition price. And as you probably recall, Greenbelt is also fundraising $50,000 towards that acquisition. And we have also offered to draft the grant for the town, but the grant needs to be formally submitted by the town, since only the town is authorized for the grant. So what I'm seeking from you tonight is a recommendation of a project manager. What I'll need to submit the grant is a letter from the chair of the Board of Selectmen authorizing a project manager to be the point person for the grant on behalf of the town. So I'd be looking for a recommendation from you tonight on the project manager. Typically, it would be someone in Jennifer's position, so the vote might recommend that the project manager be Jennifer, as long as she's here working in concert with her successor, and then her successor after that. Does that make sense?
I would suggest you make a motion to that effect, and then we can work it out as to, I'll help as long as I'm around, and when our new administrator, who's in the audience tonight, joins, then she can take that over.
I don't have any questions. I know exactly what we need to do, but
I don't either.
And I'm going to make the motion.
I'm going to second the motion.
Any questions? No, Joe, you have no questions?
He's
Doug,
going to
you have any
vote, he's going to
questions?
object to my...
Okay, so, motion?
So moved.
And Sean seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And if
Thank
you
you.
want to send me like an email or something, I'll forward it off to whoever needs to get that going. Thank you.
Next one is an RDA for 292 Salem Street.
Good evening.
It's the wrong Salem Street. There it is. All right, so you have in front of you tonight a request for determination of applicability for a patio. It was found under construction when it occurred. The majority of it is outside the buffer zone, but when we measured, it's 80-ish feet from an intermittent stream. Remember the little pond that was across the street where the two pines got cut down, the ones you and I saw? Well, it flows underneath the road and discharges onto this property. The homeowner who had purchased the property recently was aware of wetlands that are out to the back that had been on a prior filing, but didn't realize the jurisdiction of the connection that comes from across the street to that wetland in the back of his property. So this patio project started. We stopped it. Everything has been we've been facilitating getting this application in front of you, but the owner's been very helpful in getting that done, even in my absence, and you have the plans before you tonight. So I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I don't think I have anything additional to add to the plans.
Well, you can tell them there was a patio there, correct?
We have some pictures. I apologize that they were not submitted earlier. So I have, if you want to. So there's one set, there was an existing asphalt walkway that went down that part, and so we used the asphalt walkway as the outline for the patio. And that's the part that's marked with the hash marks in red over there on the top. And then when Jennifer came out, she measured that it was about 85 feet from the intermittent stream, which we apologize, we didn't know that it connected to that part there and that the wetlands extended that far into our property.
So there really isn't any concern for erosion. The site's mostly level. The stuff's been out there now for a couple weeks, and I don't think anything's migrated anywhere. So I would just recommend allowing them to complete the construction of the patio under a negative determination, and my only conditions would be a post-construction inspection. And I think just for the purposes of making sure everyone knows where the wetlands are, that wetland markers go on the existing tree line. Again, this site doesn't necessarily comply with your 25-foot no disturb and 50-foot no build. There's actually a shed very close to that intermittent stream, but it was built
Right. 1960, I think?
yeah, prior to the Wetlands Protection Act. So, and there's nothing out there that I can determine it's all existing. The shed's old, everything about it was sort of back from the day.
So is this on the corner of Salem and Marbridge?
Yes,
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
heading down towards, so it eventually,
correct.
it does, I know exactly where that stream goes. It goes
Yep.
down, transmits onto the farm, and eventually...
And crosses, yeah.
And it makes its way into the watershed
Right.
at some point, so it is a good idea to keep that as protected as we can.
Yeah, so I think just the wetland markers, there is a good, it isn't a 25-foot buffer, but there is a good vegetated buffer there.
And
And
you're
plenty of mature trees to put.
You're satisfied with the 85-foot delineation approximately? plus
Oh,
or
yeah,
minus?
I was out there, I measured it.
Okay.
It's
No questions.
definitely outside the 50.
And it says here that the triple filing fees were paid?
I don't know anything. The fees were paid. I haven't been here, so I wasn't able to confirm that.
Now, you understand why we did the enforcement order about the cutting of the trees and,
No, they-
because if we
they
let
didn't cut any
everybody do
trees.
that.
They didn't cut.
They didn't cut any trees.
I know, you didn't cut.
No, we
trees,
didn't cut any trees. This is
but
just,
The thing of it is that if everybody does that, we can stay on watch TV.
yes, I understand,
So
sir.
we have to, unfortunately, we have to enforce our bylaw. So, and now that the fee's been paid, and like I said, we're changing administrators, but if you ever have any questions in the future,
Yes, sir.
just call.
Yes, we knew there were some, and we know there are wetlands laws. We didn't realize that, based off the drawings that we were provided by the previous homeowners, that the wetlands just extended that far and connected to the intermittent stream. It was only marked in the far back corner of our property. And so we had checked that distance to make sure, because we had seen the 50 marker, but we hadn't realized that it all came down all the way to the side yard as well.
Well, like I said, in the future, if you have any doubt, call the office.
Yes, sir, most
That's what they're here
definitely.
for.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Yep. Sean?
No questions?
I think there is one more thing. I'm sorry, sir.
Oh,
There is some overgrown brush that is coming up around the shed, which is going to be impeding access to the shed door pretty soon. We just want permission to cut that back and then use some of the rocks to just create a natural barrier so that we would know where it is and so that they're not going to keep making it so we don't have access to the shed.
This is where we're looking to do the rock wall, and then this is early spring. It's not quite overgrown yet, but by last year, it was very difficult to get into the shed.
So they did mention this, maybe you could authorize a limit that we could put into the negative determination, a limit of clearing around the shed, like whatever feet,
What do you recommend?
I don't know, what's good to get in a shed, 5 feet, 10 feet?
Don't know how big the door is. It has to swing.
Yeah.
How much swing do you need for the door?
As long as it can come to 90 degrees open, that's what I want. So there's one major bush there. If I can just cut back to the base of that bush, that gets us clear.
Yeah.
That work for you?
Yeah, I'd prefer to have a distance so I can put it in the negative determination about
He wants the door to open at 90 degrees. We haven't
Right.
quantified what 90 degrees is.
how far do you think that is, if you had to be sort of generous about it?
Right,
5
that's what I was
feet?
trying to get.
5 feet?
Yeah.
We'll say 5 to 7 feet, just so that they have a little leeway.
We appreciate the leniency.
5 to 7 plus or minus?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'll put, able to open door,
Able
something
to open
like
door,
that.
yeah. Get the door open.
No questions.
John?
We're good?
Doug?
Very good.
Motion?
What are you looking for?
So a negative number 3 with wetland markers and a post-construction inspection. And I would also, for a second vote, to release the enforcement order once the wetland markers are installed, because they'll be good.
I'll move them both.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
The-
That's unanimous. Thank you.
There's a third piece on there, using the rocks to create the
Oh.
natural barrier.
So you're talking just in the area of the shed? Or you want,
Just in the area and the other area of the wetlands that we measured from, just right along that edge of where the
so they
vegetated
want to
part
put
ended.
like what kind of stone are you going to use?
It's just Natural stone? Yeah, what came out of the ground?
Oh, from,
Fields.
oh, the
Stones,
rocks, the
big
rocks,
stones.
Yes, sir.
Big stones.
Like 2
He wants-
foot.
He wants to make a.
Like this
A sort
size?
of stone wall.
Yes, sir.
right, right.
So that if we're gonna let him do that, have him monumented. And have it
Stone
be,
wall, add existing
are
vegetation.
we asking for an as-built?
No,
Should we?
no, not on an RDA.
Okay, but now that we're allowing the construction of a stone wall?
I mean,
He's not. he's
no,
talking-
not to like,
Okay.
we just want to roll the stones out there to the edge of the vegetative wetlands, like,
No,
we're
I'm just
not
actually
going
trying to
into
help
it.
you going forward.
How big a wall? How big are you rolling the stones?
A single stone high?
No, but how long?
30 feet just along the
They show it
edge.
in the pictures.
The
They want-
picture,
they want
there's
to
the
put a stone
picture with
wall.
the single rock that the workers already put there before they were stopped.
So they want to do a wall along here.
Single stone, though, one
Single
one
stone, so,
It's not really a wall, it's just like one stone that
yeah.
delineates.
It's just to
Is it going to
keep,
be one stone or multiple stones?
just, well, one stone each next to each other. It'll just to keep overgrowth from coming onto the, that's
Well,
all.
I understand, but
Yes,
for
sir.
purposes of us having a very clear picture of what you want to do, you're not just putting one stone there. You want to put multiple stones to create a.
In a line.
area, In a row.
Multiple stones in a line,
We're going to
single
call
row
that a
high.
stone wall no matter
Okay, sir.
whatever. Okay.
Perfect.
So he wants to construct a stone wall. Shouldn't we have that recorded? I get it. I'm not opposed to it. What I'm saying is, going forward, if we allow it, shouldn't we require that it be recorded somehow, so that if he comes back, somebody doesn't accuse him?
No, we're
of-
going to put it in the negative determination, that he will monument the existing edge of vegetation with stones and wetland markers.
Okay, if you're happy with it.
We've never done it any way different.
No,
We're not going to make him do a $2,000 survey for his
no.
$2,000 patio.
You're missing my point. I'm putting myself in the shoes, and time goes by, and he wants to do something else back there, and the next person goes in there and says, I don't have anything about, this wall's not shown anywhere on any plan.
It's going to be in, oh, would you like him to update his plan to show the wall?
If,
Like for
aren't
submission?
we all about keeping records here? I mean, this shouldn't be this hard. I'm saying, okay, build the wall, but let's somehow,
So if he were to update this plan with his, where the
there you
wall
go.
is,
Beautiful.
go.
There you
Sure.
go. That's
I
all I'm
can-
asking.
so he'll provide
Okay.
an updated plan.
That makes me happy.
Would like it in yellow versus red and blue.
Just yellow? Perfect.
You understand what I'm getting at, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. We're going to amend this negative determination then
Yeah.
to include this, right?
So amended.
We have a motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. You all set?
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
We'll write that up, though, and,
If you have a fourth one,
No, I know, we're gonna keep going, or it's your show.
are you sure? Is this final? Okay,
You can come back anytime.
and we'll welcome you.
Thank you. Is there anything else you need from us this evening, or does this delay to anything to a future meeting?
nope,
Nope.
it's done. Except just wait to get started until I write you a permit.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Remember, we have the highest ratings of any show on town TV, so you can watch us anytime, Channel 8.
Two. Next one is 242-1745, request to continue to 6/12.
So moved.
I'm kind of glad because Mr. Lynch is in here.
You have a motion in a second?
Yeah, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1753, 247 Chickering Road.
Oh, it's here. So we didn't have much more to add. This was mostly for the planning board. There was one document that was submitted at the planning board meeting, which I believe was a revised O&M, which, did you bring for them, or?
I did bring copies,
Oh,
yes.
okay. So you'll get that tonight, and a status update of where everybody's at, since I wasn't at the planning board meeting last night.
All right, for the record, David Jordan with MHF Design Consultants, engineer and land surveyor. When we were here a couple weeks ago, really the thing we were waiting for at that time was just the final sign-off from the peer review consultants, Tech and Horsley Witten. We have received that. One of the comments, though, in Horsley Witten's sign-off was that they requested that our O&M plan be updated to include information on the Filterra units. That's those tree box filters that we added for the stormwater management system. We've done that. I can pass out the updated O&M plan. Honestly, it's not too exciting, but the back probably dozen pages deal with the Filterra system.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I believe the other thing we were waiting for a couple weeks ago was just to see how the planning board was going to act. They met last night. They did not close the hearing, but they did say that they will close and issue their decision at the next meeting in, it's either 2 or 3 weeks, I forget. So there's no further plan revisions required. We are now at the point where we're requesting or hoping that you will close this evening and issue an order at your next meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I don't have any questions of you. You satisfied with everything?
Yep, I think at the last meeting, we got the restoration plan for the 25-foot no disturbance
Yep.
zone, and we did have the last Horsley Witten letter at the meeting saying outside of a few things. And I'll go through that letter to make sure I don't know if they had us condition anything. But then it was just the fact that the planning board was still open. I think they were waiting for some traffic information, which
Yes.
they got yesterday, so I think we should all be on the same page now. Nothing in the traffic information was going to
No,
change.
nothing.
Okay. So we're good.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I'm not comfortable with closing something that's open to the planning board. What we can do is vote on it and issue the decision at the next meeting. We'd have it all written up for you.
I'm not sure they meet before we meet again, right? Because we meet June the 12th, do you recall?
Yeah.
They were off for May because of town meeting. They're meeting before us? Okay.
Yeah, I believe they are.
Okay. Well, we do the same as them, then we would close an issue at the same meeting.
That's fine.
If the planning board closes, and then I would say, you would say to him, he doesn't need to be here. right?
No,
Yep. Okay.
no, I just, historically, we don't usually close unless we have all the other boards in
Okay.
tow. Because,
Well, they did email me today to say they were done, but if you want to wait, I understand. But I'm just saying, for his purposes, he might not need to come next time.
no, he doesn't have to come in. He can't do anything until he gets a decision from the planning board anyways.
Right.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
No, hold on, we just got,
Nope.
Sean?
So the planning board will close an issue before we close an issue?
If they meet before us, which,
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I agree with Lou's perspective on this. So
Doug?
I agree. No questions.
Motion to continue.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no change. So you know where we're going, your decision with us will be, at the next meeting, will already be written out, as long as planning doesn't throw us a curveball.
Don't expect
yeah,
that.
I don't expect that.
I don't expect it either. So you'll be all set by the next
Great.
meeting. All
Thank you
right,
very much.
thank you. Next one is 242-1697, modification request for 315 South Bradford Street, request to withdraw.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1327, COC request for 125 Hillside Road. This was the first project I went and did site review with Jen when she first come on.
You came with me? Because
Yeah.
Jack was, or you were, someone was chair. This was like day one. They permitted this in like 2007. Is Amy not here from, isn't she coming to this meeting? She was. We might want to table, I thought she was coming, because she's got 2 on the agenda. Maybe she just didn't think we'd
Yeah,
be,
there are 2.
There are two.
we'd be here this fast, so we can just table the 2 DOT
We're
matters.
going to table the two
Last time.
MassDOT, the 242-1327 and 242-0900. So next one is 242-0628, 66 Meadowwood Road.
Yeah, I don't know where this one is going. This is the house that we couldn't get the certificate of compliance on because it had a stormwater structure on it that hadn't been maintained, and we didn't have copies of any easements for it to be maintained or any O&M plan or, so we emailed the engineer, and he said he didn't get it, he doesn't have anything further, so at this point, I would just maybe continue it for one more meeting, and if not, maybe we just deny at this point.
What more do we need for information? We don't have any information, you're saying?
We have an as-built plan of the unit, right? Because these are all super tight, right up against the wetland line. But
Yes.
when we went out there, there's still erosion control out there. There's been some digging adjacent to the basin, of which purpose, I'm not really sure. There's all kinds of things going on out there. They're not necessarily this homeowner's fault, but they're on if we granted a certificate of compliance to this piece of property, all of that is on it.
Is there a way to grant a PCOC for the homeowner's unit individually and not the project?
Well, there's an easement, there's supposed to be an easement on this property for access to that detention basin, so
You're saying there's no easement or none recorded?
none that we've gotten a copy of.
Okay.
If we had the easement document and we knew we could get in there and do whatever maintenance we were required to do, I think it might make it easier, and someone could at least take the erosion control out from 20 years ago.
Well, that would be a management company. That was a 40B when it was built.
Right.
That is a 40B, was and is a 40B. So there has to be a management company somewhere
No, there's
responsible.
supposed to be a homeowners association.
Okay.
Which,
Same idea. So there needs to be one. They're statutorily required to have
Right.
one. So if they don't have one, the problem's bigger than the PCOC.
right.
So I guess,
But I'm a big fan of, I don't want to, I mean, the house has sold, and I'm not, we've, on other projects, used this as a mechanism for getting issues resolved out there, which I kind of think we should.
I'm all in favor of that. I'm all
Yeah.
in favor of that. I agree with you. I don't want to hurt the homeowner, but we also,
Right.
at the same time, don't want to waive our rights.
Right.
How do we do that?
And all kidding aside, the applicant has made no effort to help remedy the situation.
Yeah, there's some pressure on, usually there's some, the closing is being held up or money's being escrowed, and again, I think if we let this go away, then we're going to lose some traction for making things happen out there, and some things should be happening out there.
So what would you like us to do right now?
Nothing, just continue. And
Just
we'll
continue.
we'll keep working it.
Well, if we don't have, if we,
To do something, deny it and say, hey, we deny it, this is the reason why we
Okay.
deny it, and now we'll force them to do something.
Or do you want to give them till the next meeting? Do you have communication with
Yes,
anyone?
yes. Merrimack Engineering is still the engineer of record on this.
Okay, so they were the engineer of record when the thing got built?
Yep.
Okay, so perhaps you could just deliver information to Merrimack, advising them that at the next meeting it'll be denied unless we receive the
Okay.
information we need, and see what that shakes.
Okay,
And see if they, and ask them, please, if they can give us information on, is there a homeowners association, and if
Yep.
so, who's the contact?
okay.
I mean,
We will find out.
then if we have to deny it, at least we'll know who to send the notice to.
Gotcha.
I don't know how else to get it.
any questions, Deb?
No question.
Sean? No. Doug? Motion?
Move to continue until June the 12th.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and that's unanimous. So the next one is partial C request 2420634 for 115 Colonial Drive.
Okay, so here's one where the homeowner exerted some pressure and things happened.
I have to thank you also for rushing this to get in tonight. My name is Kimberly Karen, and I live on 115 Colonial Ave. I've been a 17-year resident at that address and found out 3 days before my closing last week that I have an outstanding order of conditions on that property, which has delayed the closing. And Jennifer, thank you again for rushing things to get to this meeting tonight so that we don't have to delay this. I've been working with Anthony Capacchietti from Hayes Engineering, and he has presented a letter of compliance. He inspected my property last night, and I believe you have everything with you on his findings that everything is in compliance. The original order of conditions was for AC Builders back in 1993, and the reason and I didn't know about it. So I'm here to ask for a partial COC so that I can pursue the closure of my home.
Thank you. Al?
I'm all set, I have no questions.
I have a question. Where is Colonial Ave?
It's Woodland Estates, 114, going toward
Is
Middleton.
it? Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Just for historical purposes, I'm sorry to, Colonial Ave is where we ordered a house to be
The house
moved.
to be
Okay.
moved.
AC Builders was R.L. Cormier, no longer with us, and we ordered R.L. to move a house, and he did indeed move the house. So that's what made this quite a project. It wasn't this lady's house.
No.
It isn't exactly true that the site is in compliance. There's now a deck and a patio and a retaining wall on the site. But if you recall, all of these houses were boxes on a plan back in the
Yep.
day. So there is record in the evidence in the file that the deck was built and the house was moved forward so it could have a deck. The retaining wall was not permitted on this property, but it was permitted on the adjacent property. And you can see it goes into the 20, looks like it goes into the 25 on the adjacent property, but it was permitted between the 25 and the 50 on that property, not necessarily on this property, but it seems like it's an extension of something that was on the adjacent property. And all of the structures, we have had people do after-the-fact RDAs for things that weren't on the plan, that are now on the plan, but only when they didn't comply with the setbacks. And so this one actually complies with the setbacks. So that's why I would recommend that you issue the partial certificate of compliance.
Thank you. Deb?
No questions.
Sean?
I don't have any questions.
Oh, I think, is this the one, did Ben say there was erosion control up there? Yeah, I think there is. So, I think that's one thing we need to get out. Behind the retaining wall, there's black silt fence still in the wetland,
Okay.
and so I would recommend issuing the partial certificate of compliance released when that material is removed from the wetland.
Okay. Is that mentioned in his letter? I didn't see anything about that.
No, Ben went out, so our field inspector went out to the site. I believe he, didn't he take pictures? I think he took pictures.
Today?
In here.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just show you briefly.
Yeah, sure, talking.
See this fencing that's back there, the black stuff?
Yes,
That should
that needs to be removed.
needs to be
Okay.
removed.
Yeah.
So you can see that.
Is there any particular special way to do that, or you just go
You
and
just
remove it, pull it out?
of the ground.
Okay.
It's basically
Watch out for the
trash.
poison ivy.
It just needs to come out for, it was from when the development took place.
Okay, and they just never removed it?
They never removed it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I do have a question about that. If that's done immediately, is that something that we could proceed?
Tomorrow, we have to type up this document, they sign it, we type it up, we issue it to you either by hand
Okay.
or by mail, however you want us to send it to you.
Okay.
And if you go home and tear that stuff out tonight, we'll hand you the thing tomorrow. Someone will have to come look to make sure.
Wonderful.
But yes, it can be done immediately.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You're all set. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we still have the 2 mass dots
And we get enforcement orders.
and 3 EOs. Want to just go to the EOs?
Yeah, we don't have, nobody here from MassDOT yet.
Not yet.
Okay, enforcement order 292 Salem Street, we just voted on.
We already addressed that one.
Okay, and 46 Hollow Tree Lane.
Okay.
Good evening.
How are you?
This is early, usually it's 2 hours in when I finally get my turn.
I know, we were good tonight.
So if you remember from last time, I was supposed to come back in the middle of June to let you know, and I needed certain things completed. I went in, checked with Jen on specifically, just to make sure I was on the right track. And basically, there were 3 pieces of it. There were the placards on the trees to delineate, to show signs, the wall, and the planting. I'm here today instead of the middle of June because I'm an Army reservist, and I found out about a month ago I'm being mobilized. On the 8th of June, I leave for Afghanistan for a year. So I needed to get, certain things had to get moving. I had to prioritize certain things. So right now, the placards are up on the trees. I bought them one day while I was in Town Hall. I've got them up on the trees and the variety, like the circle ones and the square ones, and I made sure to space them out. The stones for the wall have been dropped off on my property. I've got 2 or 3 truckloads dropped off. I think I'm waiting for 1 or 2 more. And the planting and wall should commence in about 2 weeks. So to put, late May, early June. But this is the last meeting I can come to, so I figured I'd come, tell you where we stand with everything, and then see about going forward, can communication be done via email or something like that? I can get the landscape, somebody send me photos and then go from there.
Okay, just the wetland markers are supposed to be on the wall, because if they're on the trees, they're inside the 25-foot no disturbance zone.
Okay, I can get more and put them on the wall also. The wall's only 2 feet though.
Right, we usually epoxy them to the wall.
Okay.
Or you can, some people will put, but you cleared the 25-foot no disturbance zone, especially in one area, so the markers can't be at the tree
markers are
line,
set
they
back,
need to be
right.
out.
There are 2 areas where I cut into the 25-foot zone. I've got them on the first trees that are there, but on the rest of it, I have them on the trees that line it. Once the wall is in, I can have them attached to the wall.
So the enforcement order required him to have all that work done by June 15th.
I just heard him say he's going on vacation for a year,
Right.
so
So that's why he's here early.
we should try to work with him if we can.
But
I'm
like,
sorry,
as I said.
all planting shall be completed by June 1st is in the enforcement order.
Okay, I thought it was 15, but yes, I have the landscaper contracted. He's a local guy, lives in town, business is in town, and he's aware of the timeline. Like I said, he's already got I don't have it written down, it's in my phone. He sent me the species of trees, because in talking with Jen, I need 4 trees and 4 bushes, 2 of each in each spot that went into the wetland. So he sent me the trees and made sure because I had him research to make sure they were indigenous to a New England
They were
wetland.
supposed to be red maple, red oak, and white oak, and pine,
Okay,
white pine.
I can make sure
Wait,
that's
is
what he has.
this, whose plan is this? Oh, maybe this isn't, this is
I was going to say,
somebody.
I don't remember seeing specific species. I just
Well, they
remember.
need to be approved by me, so,
Okay,
Did you want to have the person doing the work for you communicate directly with our office so that you can concentrate on what you have to do?
I mean, I have the email with I can forward what the species are just to do that, and then after going forward, yeah, I
I'm
can,
trying to,
yeah, I can
take it off your
ask him
plate.
to.
You got other things to worry about.
Yeah, I can ask him if he can, yeah.
Jen,
yep, that's fine.
white pine, didn't Joe not want white pine?
No, not on this particular
Oh, no, okay.
project.
I was going to say, I know we didn't specifically specify species in the
But the
plan,
plan
but they do have to be
require-
approved, yeah.
Right, but this requires you to, in addition to wetland seed mix, the disturbed 25 shall be planted with a mix of trees and shrubs to replace those. A planting plan will be submitted to the Conservation Department for approval. That was supposed to be done a while ago, but needless to say.
That was when I came to
we-
talk to you.
Yeah,
And yeah,
well, we
that's when
agreed
you
it would be
specified the
native.
number, yeah.
Right. But, yeah, they can communicate with me, as long as they know what the responsibility is, and
Yeah,
First of all, I want to say thank you for your service,
thank you.
and I really would like to see this go away.
So would I. So would my wife.
This has
but
been
that's-
ongoing for a long time. I like Mr. Manzi's suggestion about the subcontractor or the contractor dealing with the administrator.
Okay.
And it can get done, it'll get done, and then when you come home, you'll be done.
That's the goal.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All set.
Sean?
Just to echo, thank you for your service and
Thank you.
and be safe.
Thank you.
Doug?
do we want to extend out the requirements for the dates, or in the enforcement order?
When do you go away?
I leave the 8th.
8th of June?
planting by June, you think they could be in touch with me by June 30th to do
I'm sure
that?
it could. I'm hoping it's done before that, but we can say the 30th.
Yeah, you're going to be.
It would be tough to do it by the 1st
You're going to be talking to the
anyway.
contractor, Mr. Lally's got a date.
Right, so just have him get in touch with me, and hopefully he can get this wrapped up by June 30th, and then we'll be in the one-year monitoring period, so
Okay.
when you come back, you can come tell us how the plants look.
Take pictures. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, be careful.
The next one is, MassDOT's not here, so we can still do it. 1210 Arch Street, 242-1692, and I am going to recuse myself and make Mr. Manzi the chairman.
Okay, so give me a minute to,
Okay. Let me
give me 1 second here, guys, and I want to
So
just.
there was kind of a flurry of documentation that we've received just today, so that makes things a little difficult. So a couple things have happened since the last meeting. One was we received a report that the drawdown wells had been activated. They seemed to function fairly well when it wasn't raining, but that when it was raining, there was still seepage. The second thing that happened was I got a report from the site monitor that another well had been installed without any approval, and that is the one that's up on the screen now. And I'm sure you'll get some explanation of that. But this is in the location of one of the seeps that didn't stop when it was raining. Also, since that time, we've received a report from Mr. McManus, who I'm assuming is here this evening, which I have not read, and he will give you copies because it came in today. I also received an email from the site monitor, Williams and Spragus, that they agreed with whatever it is Mr. McManus proposed, that we will all hear about shortly. So that's sort of the information that I have to you. I also forward along some soil reports, which I think Mr. Lynch, who isn't here this evening, had read and still had concerns that concrete was being buried outside of the commission's jurisdiction across the site, and was wondering what kind of impact that was going to have in perpetuity. So I'll put that back to you.
Thank you. Dan Brenner, NRC Group. We have Paul Lockwood and Paul McManus here. If you guys want to step up. Apologies for not being able to get that letter to you sooner, but Jennifer's correct. We did submit a report from Mr. McManus that summarizes in a few paragraphs, 3 pages, each of the 3 consultants, what they've been doing, what they've been observing.
I don't have it, no. I just can't hear at 5 o'clock tonight, so.
Mr. McManus has a summary, which he can get into in detail, considering you haven't had a chance to review, followed by Mr. Lockwood giving a update about the success of the well point and sump wells. And then there's also a short blurb from Vern Kokoza of Sanborn Head, who's essentially just summarized the fact that per your request, he has taken samples of that pond, and that results will be available before the end of the month. So with that, I want to turn it over to Paul McManus and Paul Lockwood. I would just like to just point out that the additional sump wells that were installed over the weekend were included in the proposal that was submitted to the board several weeks ago. It was identified as supplemental, as needed sumps that, although were not anticipated to be needed at the time, became known that they were going to be needed, and they were installed given the impending rain coming and given the fact that it was already disclosed to the commission. So I'll let Paul Lockwood touch more on that, but before he does, Paul McManus.
Thanks, Dan. Again, Paul McManus from Ecotech. The letter that you received that I just handed out is what Jennifer mentioned, and obviously it is dated today. I apologize, but this is results of my being on site last week and also most recently just yesterday. So that's why we have to get it to you at the 11th hour here. But essentially, a couple topics we want to touch on. The wetland evaluation. As I mentioned before, 2 weeks ago, I wanted to go out and do an evaluation out there. Within the past 2 weeks, as I'm sure everybody knows, spring has kind of sprung, the leaves have popped, and it's much more able to assess the situation out there. I did in fact find that there are localized areas below the seeps where there is affected vegetation. And you know, there's some stress plants. There's localized area with some dead vegetation. I'm not sure exactly why, whether it's hydrology or what. But from my perspective, it's something that should be remediated. I describe in general terms that we propose to go out and do some restoration plantings out there. I need to do a better inventory of exactly what I think was there. I will say that a significant part of the plant community that was there appears to be invasive glossy buckthorn and Tartarian honeysuckle. Obviously, we're not going to propose to replace those in kind. We'd replace those with natives. But that was a significant component. Part of this area is actually in the buffer zone between the primary former seep area and the BVW boundary. And then there's also a little area right at the very top of the BVW boundary, and a very little area further down. So I'll go and do a more thorough job of characterizing the actual area, and then specify, you know, right down to numbers of specimens, pot size, that sort of thing. I think I heard Jennifer say that Greg Hockmuth is in agreement that that's the right thing to do. Did I understand that correctly, Jennifer?
He sent an email, again, it's kind of, I saw something briefly that said he was in favor of the proposal.
Okay, well, the proposal is in essence, to do some restoration plantings. And within what I'll detail, it'd be similar to what you'd see for a replication area in terms of specking out, you know, the species sizes, densities, numbers, and also monitoring, because clearly, like a replication area, you know, we want to go and do monitoring and reporting to the commission. So I'll spell that all out in some detail and get that to you. The other thing that I had talked about in terms of remedial work out there was there are within the channel, there's some areas with what I described as a calcite crust. I didn't want to go out right away and do that while it was still very wet. As Paul Lockwood will describe in a minute, his system has been very effective. And also it's stopped raining every day or every other day, which certainly helps. So what I would propose to do is to go out there and direct the cleanup just with hand tools, and you know, we're talking literally, you know, hands and knees and trowels, you know, scraping up this material and put it in buckets. You know, it's of a scale, you know, a size scale that's feasible and in my opinion, the appropriate way to do it. You know, so I think, you know, given the effectiveness of Paul's system, the fact that it's we seem to have gotten out of the rainy period, and also things are getting warm. There's a lot more evapotranspiration. The tree's taking water out of the ground. I think we can do that in probably a week or two, and do it with really minimal effect on the areas where we're working, other than the actual removal. So I would like to do that. I guess I'll ask directly. You know, is that are we good to go and do that? You know, when we think the conditions are right.
I would, just based on what I'm hearing tonight, I would say that I think I'd want to hear from the on-site monitor,
Okay.
and I'd like to hear from our administrator, whichever administrator is working, to also be on-site. I don't think I would not be in favor of just giving you a blank check.
I could certainly meet Greg out there, like late one day next week, like after 5 kind of thing. And we could, because I would just want to make sure, I haven't been out there in a couple weeks, probably since the weekend you walked, like,
Yeah.
so I would want to make sure things were significantly dried up, that we're not gonna.
Yeah, I'd like to get out again as well. I don't think that I learn more in an hour on the site than I'll learn here talking to you, no offense.
Oh, I agree.
So I think I'd want to get out and have a look-see. I have a better understanding of the site when I'm there, and I have a better understanding of the well points and the seepages and the distance that it's transmitting. So that would be my request. I could meet you or Greg or whoever.
Yeah, and we all can, because if it's you, you also need to meet late day, so.
Yeah. So we can let us set that up.
All right, so I'll just coordinate with staff on that, and we'll,
Yes.
Do you want to be there as well? So I'll have Greg coordinated if that's the case, or,
I think that makes sense.
okay.
I have to say, for me, it would probably be a Saturday, because I work in Boston, and I can't scoot out for a 3-hour smoke break, you know?
Well, we have a lot of light end of day. That's why I was thinking maybe we could do it end of day, one day. We could work
Well,
around your
Today's
schedule.
Wednesday, Thursday and Friday,
No, I mean next week.
oh, next week, sure,
Yeah,
we can talk.
I wasn't talking this week either. I can't do
I
this
didn't know how
week.
soon we wanted to get out there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, I don't think this is not something that I think should be done in the next couple days anyway. I think we want to.
You're talking about cleanup and maintenance right now, right? You're talking about cleaning up and removing?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you want to talk about the areas, Jen?
No, I think they should talk. I'm behind the 8 ball on
You're
this
behind the 8
because
ball. All right, so I'm interested in learning. My understanding is, and I didn't read all the documents. There were just too many for me to read it before the meeting. My understanding is there were some areas where there was continuing seepage through, and you had to institute some additional well points. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's correct.
Can you talk about that, please?
Sure. So if I could back up a second.
Yeah.
So the well point system was installed. We started doing it in early May, and we completed it. And we turned the system on full-time on the 13th, Monday. The system was working well, and it eliminated most of what we saw, most of the volume of seepage. There were 3 areas. One area was eliminated completely. 2 other areas were greatly diminished. It takes time, as I mentioned the last time, 2 weeks ago when I was here, it takes time for a well point system to reach equilibrium. It takes some time. So we gave it some time, but we discussed that we needed to, in the submittal that was given to you, we talked about the first step and then supplemental steps if necessary. They were contingent supplemental steps. Based on the presence of 2 seeps that we saw, again, they were much diminished, but they were there. We instituted the contingency work, which included putting in sump wells in the area of the seep. So there were 2 that were installed on Saturday, May 18th. One was adjacent to where most of the seepage was occurring, adjacent to Building D at the bottom of the wall. That was the picture that you saw. Okay. And the other one was put adjacent to the garage further to the north. Once the sump well was installed, they put stone, a Marafi fabric around it for erosion control and control fines and things like that. Stone was put around, and then we put a sump well, a pump inside the sump, and then it has a float on there, so it only activates when it needs to. We did that in both of them, and when we started pumping that, there was a lot of water that was in storage in that area. We pumped at a pretty high rate initially, and then it reached an equilibrium pretty quickly. The overall flow rate to the system with the well points and the supplemental sumps, it ranges. It depends on the rain. We're still gathering data every day, and we're starting to get a better idea of what's happening. But it is between 10 and 20 gallons a minute total. But once those 2 additional points were installed, it was immediately apparent that it was dry. The conditions change. We have an operator out there every single day of the week, and the spot check over the weekend, and they've confirmed the same things, that it continues to maintain dry conditions. In addition to the dewatering that's been successful on site, the water treatment's been very successful too. We have, the system is working very well. You can see the water, it's crystal clear. We have a discharge standard of 40 NTUs on our turbidity. Our average on the days that we discharge, we don't discharge every day, but when we have enough water to discharge, we discharge, and our average has been 1.9 NTUs. So it's been very effective with that.
That's from the well points, not from the dewatering. I don't know if there's any dewatering.
It's
still
from
going.
both. It's a combination of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there were some, I'm talking last week, there were numbers higher than that.
So there are 2 other systems currently that are separate
Okay.
but the supplemental sump wells and the well point system go to the same water treatment
Yeah,
system.
because Brendan sent one today at 4:28 PM.
How many tanks are operational right now? Dewatering tanks?
7.
7
They
tanks are
they
operational.
range from 11
So-
to 30.
But most of,
Have you added any since I was there last?
no,
Okay.
I don't think. When were you there last? I'm sorry.
I was there
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Nothing new.
Okay.
In fact, I don't even know if we need to keep all the tanks there.
Yeah.
The primary tanks, the ones that are associated with the well point system,
Yeah.
those ones have actively have water management going on. The other ones are only during rain events.
How many sumps are contributing to the tanks total? Approximately.
I don't know that. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know we have the 2 supplemental sumps in the well point system go
Yep.
to that one system. There are a number of sumps around, but they're not operating under normal circumstances when it's not raining.
Gotcha.
But we do have water treatment on that, and you're right that the turbidity is higher on those, but those, again, that's a little bit of a different system, and a little bit of a different, the volume of water that's released off of those is much less than what it is on.
So tank 1 is the one that's releasing the 1.2, the 1.08s,
Yeah.
because all the other tanks' numbers, they don't top the thresholds, but they're definitely more than that.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, there were empty tanks when I was there,
And there's tanks that are not discharging.
but I think it's a good idea to have them.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're planning on getting rid of them.
We're not planning on eliminating all the tanks, but I think there is a consolidation of space at a premium in the construction project. So some of them there may be a reduction in tanks, but the effect, right now, we have, 7 tanks, and, 5 of them are completely empty. So,
So what's your proposal what would you keep on site? I would say at least, you have 3 different discharge points, right? So you'd keep at least 3.
we want to have, right now, we have multiple tanks at every location. I think what
Right.
we're talking about is reducing the number of tanks at every
At
location,
each-
but not eliminating locations, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
But that should still leave a specific number, how many locations?
Right.
No, I'm asking.
Oh,
So that's what we're trying to figure out for our purposes, how many well points are operational, how many sumps are operational, how many, I think you said something like 20 gallons per hour?
20, it's about 10 to 20 gallons a minute is
so-
what we're averaging.
And how many gallons a minute can you process in the frac tanks?
Oh, we could process hundreds of gallons a minute if we had to. We have a lot more capacity.
Okay,
The well
so-
point system can do about, if we had to, it's not going to ever happen here, but that pump could do 800 gallons a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
So what's the minimum number you need to have if you don't eliminate any locations?
I
Minimum
think
number of tanks, is that your
Right.
question?
I think we're evaluating that. I mean, we're.
No,
We're not ready to,
No, because you have a set number of points right now. You can evaluate all you want, but right now you have points where you're putting water into frac tanks. How
We
many
have
of those?
two tanks. We have
that are
two tanks
active?
that are active on it all the time, and those are two that are part of the dedicated system, and that system's working very well.
So I see that active in this report, which Brendan just sent me today, 5/21/19, is tank 1, tank 3, tank 4, and tank 5. All have times and turbidity readings associated with them.
They may, but we're collecting turbidity readings on the tanks, so we're not necessarily discharging from them.
Okay, so, all right, so I guess what you've just agreed to with the commission is at this point, unless you have multiple tanks at one of these sites, you're not going to eliminate any sites between now and the next meeting.
well, I heard you say you were evaluating. I believe that's what they're doing. So no decision, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think any decision's been made to remove a tank as of today. I thought I heard them say they were evaluating that. Did I get it wrong?
That's what I want to be clear about.
I
So
think there may be some confusion. We're not putting on the table a request to remove any tanks at this time.
Okay, good.
I think
All right, very good.
per Mr. Lockwood's comment, we're evaluating, and the
Right,
system's
very-
still.
Okay. I guess I just have one more question right now, and I'm clear on what you're talking about with the pumping. I'm a little concerned that the seepage is continuing. And did I hear that there is continuing, you are on the site continuing to use reclaimed or recycled concrete somewhere on site?
Well, if we could just talk about the seepage has been eliminated.
It's eliminated. You're saying it's eliminated.
I'm saying our observations from what I was on site.
So if you took the well
personally
points out tomorrow, what would happen?
I'm not saying they're being maintained
Yeah.
with the pumping that we're doing.
So it's eliminated as long as your pumps are operational?
Correct.
Okay. You can't, as you told me at the last meeting, you can't pump forever. That's a temporary situation.
That's also correct.
Okay, all right. So, in my mind, I wouldn't call it eliminated. I would say you've got it under control at this time.
Well, there's no seep that's coming out of.
Yeah.
That's observed. I
Okay.
mean, we're a few weeks into this. I mean, this is very early on.
See, I guess the question that we're all struggling with up here is this a permanent fix? Is this thing repaired and fixed, or is this just a temporary fix? How long is this going to be a problem? That's the biggest thing that we're wrestling with, besides the damage that we're still quantifying off-site into the resource area. How long is this going to go on? And if someday we declare, okay, you've got it, you're all set, what's to stop it from starting up again?
Well, I think we're gathering information that answers some of those questions. But I think the takeaway from this that I'd like to point out is that with the seeps being controlled, that any damage that's ongoing has been eliminated. So we're controlling everything that's at this point.
Okay, so
and we're
as of-
continuing to evaluate
Yeah.
what the next steps are, both from a hydrologic standpoint and from an ecological standpoint.
Okay, so I understand your answer. So with that, are we still using the calcite on-site as fill? Are we?
We've stopped.
You have stopped, you don't use it anymore?
We've stopped,
Did you-
as of probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we stopped all import of the RCA.
So the soil reports I got were from farther back than that?
Should have been, yeah. What we have been doing, though, is stuff that was previously on site, in terms of if it was in buffer zone, we've since, sorry, my apologies. Brendan Gilmore. So what we've been doing is, with the rain store systems that we've had in our agreement with you previously, is that any RCA that was in the buffer zone underneath the rain store systems, we've taken them outside of the buffer zone, and we've taken that material and put it in other places on the site. And no new material has come in over the last 2 or 3 weeks.
But you reused some material that you had on site rather than getting rid of it?
We did, yes, sir.
We haven't, we don't feel that it would be prudent to just get the stuff out of there? Because what's jurisdictional, what's non-jurisdictional today can be jurisdictional tomorrow with a quick connection. I mean, I guess I'm just baffled by it. I don't understand.
I mean, we've been taking the material and putting it outside of the buffer zone, I mean, to try to get it out of there.
You get it outside the buffer zone, but at some point, there could be a hydrologic connection that can occur. I mean, this is what we're struggling with here.
I mean, as we've proceeded through the site and met with you guys, we've worked as best we could through this issue. One of the things that we've continued to do is any material underneath the rain store systems and systems that have not been installed yet will still be installed under the same conditions that we've agreed to you in the past as well too. So that's remove all RCA underneath the systems and then 10 feet outside them as well too.
Now, quick question. The RCA, well, the seepage that has been occurring out there, can it be specifically stated that it's not coming from RCA outside of our jurisdiction?
So he's not here, right? Vern isn't here?
Vern's not here.
So
correct.
my understanding from Vern is they tested the material that was on site and they tested the material that was flowing off site to confirm that they were the same materials.
Right, but I heard a statement a second ago that they moved it to outside our jurisdiction.
Right.
But the seepage that is occurring, there's no way to determine whether it's from RCA that was in our jurisdiction or RCA outside our
Correct,
jurisdiction.
that's true.
So moving it from one spot to another spot it kept it on the same project so that the same seepage could continue to occur, unless I'm missing.
That's what I'm struggling with. I guess I don't understand that.
Two quick clarifications. One is more RCA was removed than what was originally agreed. We talked about that maybe a few months ago. And that volume had to go somewhere. And what we did is we focused on putting it above the water table. So any RCA that was relocated was not put in an area where we believe it's going to contribute to this issue. And we're still.
Is there any RCA stockpiled on the site currently?
I didn't see any when I walked it today, but I wasn't specifically looking for it. We requested that the imported materials halt as of 2 or 3 weeks ago. That doesn't mean that there's residual RCA still on the site from where we stockpiled it previously, and we just haven't placed it yet.
We can look into that and certainly get back to you.
Well, it would seem to me that if you've got any stockpiled on the site, that should be removed off-site, gotten rid of,
I thought
period.
that's what we've been talking about.
Because even if you put it above the water table, the water that goes through the ground, seeps into the ground, goes through it, it's going to carry the calcite with it. That's where the calcite is coming from the crushed aggregate. Then, you know, it's going to end up going into the system. It's going to end up into the wetlands downstream. Whether it creates a problem or not, you know, we still haven't determined what the problem calcite causes to the environment. But other than the solidifying that it, when it comes in contact with the atmosphere.
Well, what I could say, I don't want to speak for the experts, but is that we don't know that the RCA that's in the non-jurisdictional areas is contributing to the issue. What I believe everyone is in agreement in is that capping the site is going to significantly improve the situation. And per the plan that we submitted, whether it was 2 weeks or a month ago, that's going to begin on Friday. And we think that that's going to show dividends and hopefully allow us to start powering down the system and showing, drastic improvements to a permanent fix. So
We understand that that's what you want, and we understand that's what your theory is, but, what we've been, I think, hitting the table on from the start is we don't want this stuff there. And that I thought we had made that clear. And my understanding was that you sent me a copy of a bill of lading from Granite State Concrete showing us what you were using to replace the RCA.
And that's correct.
And that was what I considered to be an agreement between us, that you were using this to replace the RCA.
And that
And now I'm
is,
hearing that you're not replacing it at all. You still got some on site, and you're still using it. That's not acceptable here.
I think there's a misunderstanding, because what, the RCA that was pulled out, and it was ordered to be pulled out, was replaced.
Council, we want it all out, okay? We want it all out. And, you know, and I'm that close to telling you to knock a building down and take it out, you know?
Removed from the site, got ripped, disposed of elsewhere. It was kept on site but used as fill material somewhere else.
I would just
That's
like
the
to
problem we're
clarify
getting into.
that agreement for November was followed to the T, and then some.
It's true, you require that the crushed glass not be used anymore, but that they could continue to use it in other locations.
That was specifically agreed
It
to.
wasn't it couldn't be anywhere near an infiltration drainage system or anything like that. But this was before this problem had started.
You know,
I mean, and I have that agreement as well.
okay, that's, go ahead, yes.
When you say, to the question I guess I posed as to whether or not the seepage is coming from RCA within the jurisdictional area or outside the jurisdictional area, your response was, we don't know. At least, I think you gratuitously gave me that response, or said that response. And my thought would be, if you don't know, that means you don't do it, not we do it and we keep our fingers crossed. You know, if I don't know something, and I know the consequences that are going on, I think logically, we don't do it until we know, not the opposite approach.
Yeah, I would take issue with fingers crossed. I think the efforts that we've taken on site and the people that we've brought and the resources that we've dedicated to this issue goes against the suggestion that we've crossed our fingers. We're doing everything we can. Now, you know, removing the RCA from the area, and I don't know if there's stockpiles. If there are, I could see why that would pose concerns. But we are doing everything we can to control this issue, and I would hope that has come across.
Taking the RCA out from underneath the infiltration systems and moving them to a different part of the project, and your only concern was that it was outside of the jurisdictional area. That's really what my focus is.
If I may, I think that the distinction maybe that's not being made is that it was, obviously the issue with the RCA and calcite is water moving through it. So that's why the agreement, you know, that the primary concern was to get it out from underneath these infiltration systems.
You can't guarantee us that you have a fix for this. You can't guarantee us that there's not always going to be water moving through it, and there's not always going to be water moving the calcite. No one has been able to give any type of an answer for sure yet. I understand you're making an effort, but A for effort.
No, but if I may, just the material that was removed is being put in areas where it's going to be capped, it's going to be above the water table, so that we do know that the water won't move through that. I mean, we can't, that is knowable. And that was the intent, and that is the plan, and that's part of this accelerated paving capping process. So we do know that is the mechanism.
You don't have permission to pave yet.
They don't need permission to pave, I mean.
Well, hold on.
Okay, I'm just
Hold
saying,
on right now.
they don't, it's in their order of conditions that.
Yeah, well, you know what? Everything in the order of conditions is on the table right now.
Okay, just saying, that's not the impression they would be under
We're not
from
going to
anything
bury
you
our
said.
mistake and then be told why it can't be dug up. Where are we on the third-party expert that I had
So
requested?
I identified someone and said that I needed some kind of scope of work to send to that person, because
Okay.
the person that, are they reviewing wetland issues? Are they reviewing, there are multiple people at this table, and no one expert's going to review all of their work, so.
So then we maybe need more than one expert. I want to level the playing field here.
Yeah, I thought it would be really tough to find one person to cover all these
Right.
areas as
Okay.
well. That's why I thought
So
we would
that's
need
why
more than one. That's why right off the bat I assumed.
For Joe to write some kind of scope of what we wanted,
Well, I
we would
think
also need some kind
You know what the
of
scope is that
test
we want.
group for
If the
that.
scope is exactly what we're talking about here tonight, we're talking about the calcite, we're talking about the damage to the wetlands downstream, one of the things we're talking about is
So do you want a geotechnical
once this,
engineer or wetland?
we gave a list of questions a few weeks ago. It started out with how long are the well points need to be in place? What type of assurances are there that the well points will stop the introduction of calcite? Has there been any type of baseline testing done? How is the calcite being removed if the chemicals are being used? Then, once the stormwater system is online, will the calcite be worse? What is the plan for removal of the calcite from the wetland resource area? What type of plan will be put in place to monitor the situation? Is this going to be a problem forever? I mean, we have a whole bunch of questions here that have really not been answered satisfactorily, in my humble opinion. And again, this is not anything against the presenters. This is saying on much smaller projects that deal strictly with wetland issues, we have frequently brought in a third-party peer review person that is an expert in the area.
So
We need
I'm fine
some
with that. You
third-party
need
peer
to-
review.
For me, because I'm not here very often, I need two things. I need an escrow account for which they're going to deposit a set amount of money.
Yeah.
And then the scope of work. If you want all these things reviewed, this
So
is
let's-
more than one individual. So we need
We'll start small.
a geotechnical engineer. We need I mean, we have more wetland scientists on this project than most projects. I mean, Greg Hockmuth is the environmental monitor on this
Understood.
site, and I think can do just a fine job of reviewing anything that comes across the table that's wetland related.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to put him on the spot for something he hasn't agreed to
All right,
do,
so
but.
what about the geotechnical information?
Right, that was the person that we had identified.
Okay.
But, so then, I will contact that person to review, I would guess, the materials that have been submitted so far that are related to geotechnical information, the well installations, the.
Let's start right at the beginning. Let's establish an escrow account right now pursuant to the bylaw.
And I would just like to say, I believe that most, if not all, of those questions have been answered. Now, you have gentlemen up here who are professional engineers who are putting their word on the line, and we would take the position that those questions have been answered. That said, we're confident in their opinions, and if you would like someone...
Then you should have no fear for a third-party review.
And that's what I'm saying. I encourage it.
Well, then that'll help us understand where we are and what we're doing too.
If that's what needs to bring
Well, I
the
mean,
comfort
I think
level...
it should be clear. I think it should be clear that that's what we need.
And I agree. If that's what you need, then we are in
clear to
agreement.
you. You know, we're not casting aspersions on your staff. We're simply saying we need somebody that's at the level.
That's fine.
That's not I don't have any expertise in this area. I'm doing the best I can with it, but I'm not a scientist.
Understood.
All right? And I think that this is what we do when we need somebody to represent us. When we need stormwater, we hire a stormwater engineer.
We will cooperate with whoever you select.
So I think we should establish an escrow account. I recommend starting the escrow account in the amount of $10,000.
Jen, how much time do you think, any way to tell how much time is going to be necessary for somebody to put into this project?
I have the contact information. I can, get.
I'm just trying to figure out for escrow purposes, how many hours we're
Well-
looking at. If you don't know, you can just tell me you don't know.
How many hours it's going to take, I have no idea. I mean, you may have a better
Sure,
idea.
they'll
I would assume
they'll
to get up
back
to speed
whatever's
is
not-
somewhere,
Not built out.
somewhere up to, 5 hours of review time, potentially, to get
Yeah,
through.
I would, frankly, I mean, they're going to want to see the site.
Yeah.
They're going
Right.
to want to look at, I think, I'd give them at least a couple full days.
Yeah, which is why I recommend $10,000. And you can always give it back, whatever doesn't get spent.
Right.
Yeah, but I would think they need a couple full days to just kind of get their feet into it.
And I'll make myself available as I can to review the site as well, so that we have eyes on from the commission.
And Paul, do you think geotech is the, I know I'm asking you something that I wouldn't ordinarily ask somebody in your position, but do you think that's the right area of expertise? Do you think there's another one that would be more?
Well, I think you need, Greg Hockmuth or somebody like him that speaks my language.
So we have him.
Yep, but I also, but I do agree that you need somebody that kind of speaks Paul's and Vern's language as well. And I guess, so.
Geotech, hydrology. So the
Yeah.
contact we had been given was for GEI. So I think you're probably familiar with them.
I think, yeah, hydrogeology, geochemistry, I think I know of those folks, and I think they're probably qualified and have people, because it's really a couple different disciplines that kind of come together.
Who's the person you talked to,
So while you do that, let me establish the account. So I have a motion, I need a second.
Second, I think.
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
So I have a motion and a second. Do we agree on the amount, $10,000 to establish escrow?
yes.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's
Michael
unanimous.
Saboulis?
I know him very
Oh,
well.
he's an LSP.
Yep.
But he was just the contact I was given. He doesn't necessarily need to be the only person for them that,
Jamie, you got that, right?
He's an environmental science / geologist. He would understand.
I mean, would we want an LSP? Would we want the opinion of it?
again, it's the company. They're going to have more than one specialty within the company. They can determine who is best. I would make.
Well, we want to talk to them, you know? We're not just going to cast a wide
I
net.
will make that contact.
I mean, I think if they, understand the information we need, I think they can help us and get it done more quickly and not make it a career.
Okay.
I do, at this time, I want to cease and desist on paving until we get this worked out. I don't think we're going anywhere if we let them pave it, and then if the correction can't be made, just like putting a building on top of the calcite, it's almost like saying, I dare you to make me move the building.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
I understand your frustration here. I mean, believe me, we have a...
Can you just identify yourself? I'm starting to get my people confused.
I am Bill Such from Goulston
Thank
Stores.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We understand your frustration. I mean, my client has brought to this meeting again tonight, myself, 2 well-qualified experts. When we were here a month ago, I think there was discussion of a dewatering issue that had occurred. We brought in a tremendous dewatering contractor. We've addressed that issue.
Yes.
The concern came up about the seeps and the possibility of calcite migrating from the site. We have, at considerable time and expense, installed the system that has cut off those seeps. That issue of calcite migration through seeps at the site is no longer a problem. We've addressed that.
But that's a temporary fix.
Well, it may be a temporary fix.
Well, the well points, Paul told me the well points can't stay in.
Well, you could have a well point system. I mean, hypothetically, we're not proposing this, because we think this problem is going to take care of itself as we move forward.
Yeah.
But you could hypothetically have a system that addressed this over time, in place, built into the project.
So have a site that has a series of sump pumps and well points and just continue pumping forever?
I represent clients all the time that have those issues, whether for hydrogeological reasons or for environmental reasons. That is not an unheard of approach.
I've never seen anything of this in Agder, but go ahead.
We're not proposing that right now.
Yeah.
But what we've done is a problem was identified, and we believe we have solved the problem for the time being, and we're working on a permanent solution.
Okay.
I believe that your motion to prevent paving of the site would, if carried and forward, would be an arbitrary and capricious decision, in that paving of the site in itself will have no negative effect on wetland resources. In fact, we firmly believe just the opposite. We believe paving the site is the first step to solving the problem here. It is going to tremendously reduce the amount of water infiltrating through this material at the site. Obviously, it also has a tremendous effect on our development process out there. I just don't think there's a rationale for not allowing the pavement to go forward. Believe me, if this board ultimately came to a conclusion that some sort of further remediation or removal was necessary, the fact that there's pavement down is not going to be the determining factor in terms of whether or not that remedial action has to go forward. And we really believe it's the way to solve this problem. So I just don't see a reasonable, scientific, legal basis for preventing us from paving the site at this point in time.
We don't have enough information yet. We're trying to get our expert on.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I just don't see any argument that paving the site is going to have a negative environmental effect when it reduces infiltration.
The argument is that you can't tell us how long the pumps are going to be in place. You can't tell us how long the seeps are going to be seeping. There's too much information that you cannot tell us. And you're telling me that in spite of that, and I don't think that I'm being arbitrary when I point out what is a fact, that we really don't have the information. Nobody at the table, no disrespect to anybody, can answer those questions. And you want us to allow you to cap it.
We do, in part because we have cut off the seepage of the calcite material from the site.
We don't know that. We don't know that.
Well,
I think
you've heard
we
from.
do know that. I mean, the seep that was there a week or two ago is not seeping. So we do know that, and we do know that the mechanism for the movement of this material is water going through the RCA, and therefore I think we can say that we know that eliminating water going through it will reduce the amount of mobilized material.
So you can sit there and look me in the eye with confidence and tell me that there'll be no horizontal transmission of water in any way?
I didn't say that at all.
And that's the problem.
No, but
The
no, but what
horizontal
I
transmission will pick it up.
But I think I know I can say with confidence that having less water move vertically through this material will take that amount of material out of circulation, so to speak, in terms of exposure of rainwater to the RCA. And I understand your concern. Your concern, you said earlier, something to the effect of you don't want the pavement to be a reason to not do something else.
Well, unfortunately, if we had acted more decisively early on, there wouldn't be buildings sitting on top of that stuff right now either. And sadly, we hesitated, and you guys wasted no time in getting the buildings up, and now the calcite is under them. And so it's almost like, okay, now what do I do now? How do I get it out of there now, right? So I'm growing frustrated with it. And, I don't have, in good conscience, I can't sit here and take your advice. That's just my opinion. You guys can weigh in.
So you were going to say if, that we uttered that as one of our concerns, was that capping it would make it not possible or more difficult to take some affirmative action. And you were going to say something along the lines of that shouldn't be a concern, I think? You were going to point something out?
Well, I think as was said earlier, that's I don't see why it would be.
Right. So the difference is, no offense, he's a lawyer. He's not an engineer, I don't think so, as far as his occupation and profession and specialty. So when he makes conclusions as to what is going to happen and why this is better for the project and something's not a concern, it's coming from somebody else other than him, I would imagine, because it's not within his.
Well, I think the only reason why Mr. Manzi's fear would be realized is that if I understand it correctly, is that a potential argument. I believe you're afraid of a potential argument that says, well, geez, that's all paved and it's all dressed and it's striped.
We do deal with it here a lot. Yes.
And
yes, that's one of my concerns. That's for sure.
But on the, I guess I would. It seems to me that on the scale of such an operation, of removing that material, a layer of paving on top is not an impediment on that sort of scale.
And also, you basically have, from an infiltration standpoint, you have an uncontrolled site, right? It's being managed because you have 3 systems that are operation, right? 1 primary one and 2 supplemental ones when it rains. By capping this, we actually have engineered controls in place. As a hydrogeologist, a professional geologist, I can actually say you're going to have much better control by centralizing your flow. It's going into the structure and it's going into one location. That's going to be a much better control of what's happening there, and it's also going to be an interesting thing to see, to monitor how some of it. Now, can you say unequivocally that the flow is not going to impact any of this RCA? No, you can't do that. As a scientist, you don't deal in absolutes. But I can absolutely say that it's going to be much, much better than what we have today. And I agree with my colleagues here that the pavement is not a detriment. It's not a barrier to going back and going after certain areas if you have to. It's not a building. I would strongly advise that the pavement goes through because it's going to have an absolute benefit to what's happening on site.
This is exactly why I'm asking for a third party.
No, I agree. I would much rather have a third party here to
This is
and say,
exactly
and
what
nod
I'm-
and say what he's saying. I agree 100% with it.
And then that's fine.
Love to have that come.
Can I make a suggestion then, in that, ask Mr. Manzi?
Yeah, sorry.
To hold your pavement prohibition until, you know, you
Well,
gotta.
that follows up with a question. When do you plan to start paving?
As soon as Friday.
As soon as Friday? See, it's too soon.
2 days.
You know, I'm sorry, but
That was an expedited plan
Yeah.
because experts told us.
so that's why I want
it
to
would-
prohibit you until we know what's going on.
If I may, Friday was an expedited plan. That wasn't the plan originally. What we did was we proposed that in the remedial action plan a month ago that was approved for purposes of improving this issue, because that's what the experts told us to do. So I just want to clarify that's the evidence you have before you is you have experts trained in the field telling you that this is going to improve the situation.
Got it. Got it. And what have I been asking for now this is the second meeting in a row. I want the commission to have an expert so that I can have confidence. Because I'm not at his level. I don't know how to challenge. I can't challenge either of your opinions.
Right. And people do throw us, no offense, but we do get curveballs every once in a while. and
No, I
stuff like
understand, and we're look forward to cooperating
no, I
with your experts and moving this forward.
So you can either voluntarily pull back your paving program, or I will respectfully request that we do it for you.
Mr. Chair, could we have a 5-minute recess?
We can, absolutely.
Thank you.
Recess 5 minutes.
Oh, we don't want to recess. Could review.
Yeah, we have a.
Oh, Amy's here.
Let us take something else, and you guys can go use the conference room?
Thank you.
All right. That's what we'll do instead. There is no recess.
No recess. We got other things to do. That was
You know,
here.
I just want to tell you, switching projects in
agenda?
midstream is bad for your health.
242, not DOT, sorry.
Mass DOT.
242-1327, see request for 125 at Hillside.
Excuse me, voice isn't great this week. Is it Hillside Road for this one?
For the first one, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so submittal to close out this order from original permit from 2005.
And so the COC portion of the plan you gave us was only a small portion of the plan, so.
Correct.
And so I thought there was more jurisdiction than that, because there's a replication area that isn't shown on there, and there's no sort of report of the replication either. That's my concern with the Hillside one.
Well, the replication area is in there. It's on the right. I didn't include the landscape plan.
Okay,
that
but
was
there's
part
like
of the
no
original.
report of whether it succeeded or failed or what's out there now? I thought, I didn't see. I only got to it tonight, so I'm not saying
I think I included it in the letter. I went out with our wetland supervisor to inspect the replication area. We, for the plantings that were proposed, and all those species that were planted there, 4 red maple trees were all there. I tried to take pictures, but
okay, so the 4 red maple were
doesn't really come out that clearly.
So it is in the letter. little challenge here.
Sorry. So we did examine that area, the replication area as well.
Is that, this is, maybe I'm missing a portion of the letter?
Jurisdiction area.
Yeah. Oh, including all 4 red maple trees. Okay, I guess it's just a statement then.
Yeah, I just did a small statement there. It wasn't a large replication area.
Okay, I wondered why there weren't any conditions for like ongoing
there may have been
monitoring.
more, there's a couple of the pages to the original plan set, but this was the focus of the impacts of the resource areas and the drainage was on that page, so I just included that. I have the original, oh, do I?
The only thing I didn't have time to do was go out to the site, so that would be the only other thing I'd recommend is to have somebody go to the site.
Okay.
And just sort of do what we did at the last one, kind of
Sure.
confirm that drainage is being maintained, that it's a bigger concern with the other one, because I don't think there were photos with the other one.
There were photos of both, was included in the submittal.
No,
The other one, I think I
sent them.
Yeah, emailed it, so it
Okay,
wasn't
we
part
can
of
look in the file.
copies.
Okay. I'm more satisfied with this now that you've pointed that out. Thank you.
So, and I checked, it is functioning well. When I was out there last summer, it was dry, and went a couple weeks ago, and it was filled with water with all the rain we've had lately, but it didn't seem to need any clean out or anything at this time.
All, any questions?
I have no questions.
Deb? No questions. Sean?
Are we good on this, Jim?
I mean, the
Or do you
photos
wanna
are
go
pretty
on?
clear. I guess
Do you
the other one's older, and I haven't seen the photos. This one, I've seen the photos. It doesn't look
Yeah,
like there's
that one's
any
right on the
erosion
roadway.
controls out
The
there.
other one's kind of hidden away a little bit, but.
So, yeah, I guess if you're good with it, I'm good with it now that I've heard about the replication.
Did you say you wanted, you hadn't?
I haven't been to the site, but I probably won't make it to the site. I would probably send Ben out there, so.
Doug?
Yeah, no questions, no concerns.
I mean, if there were a problem with this one, we'd have heard about it. That swale that you see in the bottom right photo there runs through someone's backyard, so non-function in this particular area would be a known entity.
So we should continue then.
No, I think you can close this one out.
No, but Ben is going to go out to the site.
If
to
you'd
verify.
like him to, then yes, he can go out to the
I
site.
go by this area numerous times, it is stabilized.
All right, let's stabilize it, and let's get rid of it and get on with the show.
I agree.
I think it's stabilized also. I don't,
It is.
I think it's stabilized also.
It's been 10 years, it's pretty stable.
Yeah, it pretty much, we're doing this for twofold, to get some as-built plans that we didn't have before, because these are old projects, and both of them, but I'll wait till that.
Right, so you can let Mass DOT know that since they didn't stop us from including an as-built requirement in the Chickering Road / Mass Ave filing, that we will be expecting as-built plans. If if you don't appeal these things up front, you can't come to us 10 years later and be like, well, we don't do as-built plans. Like, say it up front.
There's some disconnect between the departments with where things are handled, so
That's because you're too big.
Exactly, that is the problem, you're right. One group handles design, one group handles construction, and I'm kind of in between.
Right, so you could connect them then.
Yeah, we're
Well,
working on it.
trust me, even if they tried to have that discussion, it would have been a non-conversation. I'm just saying that it should be brought up a lot earlier than 10 years later.
Yeah, as more issues come up, there's more discussions that happen.
Move to issue a COC for 242-1327 Route 125 at Hillside Road.
Good. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
So here's the,
Not that I want
photos
to wait
from
here
this
parade, but 2420900 is the same, pretty much the same stature as 14. As you can see from the pictures, it's page table, unless you want to have more discussion, it's up to you.
Were there any more issues on this, Jen?
What's that, what's running down the right-hand side of that? There isn't, oh, that's just a shadow from the tree.
Yeah.
It's like no erosion control,
Yeah.
right?
These pictures came out so nice, and on that nice spring day.
There's erosion control, 10 years old, that's pretty good.
No, that's just trash, yeah, that's, you know.
I know, it's the side of 495.
Yeah.
We're not gonna, it actually looks better than I thought it would. So the only thing I had trouble confirming with this one is it was much easier on the other plan where the notes were right next to the invert. So like it said invert, and then there was a note with the spot grade that you did.
Yes.
On the older plan, I found like 2 of the inverts, so, but you certified compliance that they all matched. I just couldn't find the previous ones. That plan
the
is
actual.
so busy.
Yeah, it was kind of. Yeah, I couldn't actually find those either on the plans. I don't know if they provided it, but that was based on the grading lines that's on there.
Well, there's inverts and outlets of structures, and they show one at the end of the structure, but I couldn't find that there was some kind of proposed invert at that end. I'm not holding it now, but. So where it says 24, 7.73 invert,
Yes.
way down the end there, like I don't see any kind of corresponding number to what
There
was.
it wasn't listed on these plans, no, on the original plans. But just the grading of the basin itself shows. Yeah, it should be around 8 at the grade line there, so, yeah, unfortunately, I don't have an exact number to compare it to, basically, and I found the old plans, the original plans, but I didn't see any additional information on the other pages, so, the plans are written a little differently in the past. Not as much information.
There was proposed.
773 is the invert. For the outlet.
And then they didn't do any in the proposed compensatory flood storage area?
No, I didn't get, I didn't realize that was there, was out there. And to be honest, I'm not sure going out there now to get those numbers, if they'd be accurate after this amount of time with,
Shrubs and whatnot. which are
yeah,
gonna be
just
there.
soil buildup over time. I'm sure the numbers will be different, so I don't know how
Right, oh.
how to confirm that this time, but.
Okay, mine were off too.
I saw, like, it was graded like that. It's difficult.
I'll hold off on
I got it muted, and it's still ringing.
It's still ringing.
Well, if it's family and they call you more than once.
So we're just going to go to airplane mode, that'll solve it.
Okay.
My grandson does that to me
All
all the
right,
time.
but anyway, it is what it is. I'll leave it up to you. I have not
You comfortable?
I'm
climbed
comfortable.
up over the guardrail.
I have no
down
issues with
495.
this project at all, no issues at all.
I don't.
Commissioners, move to issue the order of condition, no, the certificate of compliance.
Second.
All those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Sorry we had to listen to shootout Oak Kick
I
Round.
didn't see when you, did you get my email or did
You
you?
want to do
just-
this
were you-
decision or you want them
Oh,
back?
what happened? I just, because we had tabled you and I'm like, are you coming?
Good.
Yeah, sorry, you must have flew through your agenda
We
quickly
did.
today, so my
Well, sort of.
estimate was off on time to get here, I'm sorry.
Okay.
NG.
So we also have an order of conditions, thanks, Amy, for 242-1754, which is 326 Campbell, the new house that was proposed out there. If you want to take that up while we're waiting?
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So this is the one where they went with the 50-foot no disturbance zone, 75-foot no build zone, and admitted that there was a ephemeral pool, well, didn't provide evidence to refute that there was ephemeral pool habitat.
I'm sorry, is this is the one that
With the pond.
they're assuming
Right.
they're keeping the setbacks?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So, and the setbacks are stated in here.
Okay.
My only concern with this property, and I had asked Ben to go out there and he didn't have time, was that we were reported at one of the prior meetings that there was a tire dump out there beyond the ponds. So I think there should be a condition that the property should be inspected for dumping, and if it's found to be removed.
Okay.
So you need to add that to be reviewed.
Do you want that to be a pre-construction condition?
Sure.
Let's do it that way, yeah.
Okay, I'll change it. So that would be in there. I did note that you gave them, a waiver of the 50-foot no disturbance zone for removal of a portion of the existing dwelling and that shed that was out there that was brought up during the hearing. I put bond at $4,000 since there seems to be a lot of things at stake here as far as resource areas and whatnot. I do think that they're gonna need pressure-treated posts to monument the 50-foot, because I don't think, they can use mature trees where there are, but there's enough disturbance, on this site, especially once they get that shed out of there, that'll be areas that need to be marked otherwise. So I think the rest of it's fairly, it was a house and they complied for the most part. And if they decide to do anything else, you let them know they needed to come back, so.
All right, Al, any questions?
I have no questions.
Deb?
No questions.
Questions?
No questions.
Motion?
I move that we authorize as amended.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. I'd say motion to adjourn, but we can't do that.
Oh, we can't adjourn.
So-
Well, you can adjourn, but the rest of us, I can let them know. that-
Sorry, Jamie.
Yeah.
All right,
So invite them back and advise them that they have seriously 5 minutes.
Right.
Okay? I'm going to continue it at 5 minutes.
and
This is not going to be an all-night affair with these
he's
guys.
re-chair.
Yeah, I'm back. I got the hammer, thank you.
He even used it. I never used that.
I'll wait till they come back before I make any.
The great ones never have to, Lou.
Isn't there a song, If I Am a Hammer?
Yeah, there is.
Let's sing it.
No, let's not. We're on TV.
What is it, Deb?
Let's sing If I Had a Hammer.
No, we're not.
Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Since we're live and broadcasting and all these mics are working, we're not going to do any singing.
Okay.
There's not going to be any nursery rhymes.
You don't know them.
There won't be any poetry.
These are kids.
We will maintain decorum.
Okay, good. I'll behave myself.
Sure. It is, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody here? Are you missing any guys?
I think we're ready to proceed.
You are missing a couple. You ready to go?
We're ready to go.
Okay. Counselor, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Chairman, after discussion with my client, we're coming back with a proposal.
Okay.
And the proposal is that we will voluntarily agree that no paving will take place before the next scheduled Conservation Commission meeting, which I understand is June 12th, which is 3 weeks. Provided that, and we're willing to pay the $10,000 escrow fee immediately. I assume it'll be paid tomorrow or the next day.
Okay.
Provided that your expert is prepared at that next meeting to discuss their opinion as to whether paving the site is advantageous and the right thing to do at this point in time.
So can we engage somebody that can get on board that fast? Because, I mean, I can't make a promise for somebody that I don't know yet. That's right.
Well, we can seek others if that doesn't work out, but I will make contact, or I will have someone. I'm not going to be able to make contact tomorrow because I have to be in an all-day thing, but I will have someone make contact tomorrow.
Mr. Chairman, we're also willing during that period of time to make anyone on our team available to your expert or to Jennifer Hughes to discuss these issues. We want to be an open book about this and talk to people about it. We're more than willing to do that. But we do feel that timetable is very important. And we're confident that if necessary, given our expert opinions and the record and the nature of the paving that we're proposing, that if necessary, we're confident we will prevail on appeal.
So I'm not at an appeal level yet, and I understand what you're saying, but, we have to do what we think is right here. We can't operate in fear of an appeal.
Right. Well, it would be fair to say that if activities outside the buffer zone are affecting a wetland resource area, that the whole site can become jurisdictional. I have had that stand up to appeal.
So let's get...
Jennifer, that's not really our argument here, though.
Okay, but I'm just saying, don't threaten us, because the law works both ways.
I'm not threatening.
Okay.
We've come here tonight really believing that we've answered as professionally as possible every question that the board has proposed. We really believe that we've addressed the issues at the site. And we really believe that paving is environmentally advantageous.
So let us do our diligence to get an expert on board so that we can meet your timetable and get an opinion that we have confidence in. Does that sound reasonable?
Well, I think what we can do is say, we appreciate your invitation to do that, and I think we'll accept that, but understand that you're asking us to promise things that we don't have full control over. So all we can do is say we will do our best in that time period to satisfy our end of the bargain, but still understanding that what you're doing is voluntary. And, in 3 weeks, if you look and say, hey, listen, we've had it with you guys, we're not doing this voluntarily anymore, there's no quid pro quo that's going on. All we can do is say, we'll put in our best effort to do what you've asked us to do.
No, I understand, and we can accept that. Frankly, we expected that there would be an expert here on behalf of the board this evening.
That was my hope. I started that conversation at the last meeting, and I kind of had hoped that we would be further along than we are. We are in transition. We are losing our administrator, and so not that it's an excuse, it's the way it is. Municipal government is difficult sometimes.
Secondly, certain experts are not as clear to identify what type of expert, and when you do, to try to find one that you can get. And I do think this does fall in that category from our perspective. I retain a lot of experts, and some you can dial up 100 of them. Others you can spend weeks looking to try to find the right specialty.
Right. And we did identify between last meeting and this meeting.
So I do appreciate your comment, but there has been efforts made, and this is a bit more of a tricky one.
Thank you, Sean. So we're going to go forward with that understanding, as laid out by the council.
As Bill said, we're available.
I'm going to make a site visit. I'll make more than one site visit. I'll get over there as quickly as I can, as soon as I can get in touch with Greg, hook up with Jen.
That's going to be my route too. Since I'm not available during the day and this is going to need to be done during the day, I'm going to ask Greg to make the contact with GEI, and he'll also be more prepared to lay out all of the issues because he knows all of the issues and discuss them at a higher level. If you guys are comfortable with that.
I can meet Greg there if you want to put a call.
Well, I don't think. I mean, this is the contact to see if someone's available to do that on your behalf, because he's technically in a weird spot where he works for the commission in the fact that he's the independent monitor, but he's also very familiar with your site and the work that goes on there. So.
Well, Okay, I understand.
I'm
But
not
that-
sure
but
he's
that's
available to
exactly
do
what-
that either,
That's
but-
exactly what we need, and
Right.
I'll make a site visit to learn as much as I can.
I just don't want to delay any of this at all.
Right.
I'm not delaying.
And again,
Well,
give-
I have to delay because I have a different job during the
Right,
day.
just one second, but I think we want to put whatever resource we have, and not just you, but anybody on any administrator, assistant administrator, inspectors, to make those calls and
Right,
try
right.
to line that up.
Right.
And, you know, Greg can be the one that vets if this is the right person as much as you would, but let's get the ball rolling.
Yes, will do.
And again, I believe that one way to streamline this is to have these guys on the phone right from the get-go, even if just to answer technical information or to do a site walk, to get this teed up as quickly as possible. It's in our interest to do that.
Agreed.
I can assure you that we will try, Counselor. We won't drag our feet.
Thank you.
Anything else? If not, we'll
I don't think so. I know you had asked one question earlier when he was speaking, and he said, let me finish this topic, and then you can go to that later. I forget exactly what it was, but was that covered?
Do I remember the
Was that
question?
too long ago?
I don't remember the question, and I'm not.
You know what
No, the question was about the supplemental points.
That's right.
I said I wanted to basically go back to the beginning and sort of start at where we started the dewater, and then I got into the supplemental points, so I did address that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Good, okay. All right, what's the continuous date, Jen?
12th, June 12th.
So moved?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we stand continued to June 12th, but we'll be in contact before then, obviously.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. I need one final motion from you.
I move to have Lou be the chairman again. I move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, second.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. We stand adjourned. Mr. Producer, let us know when the mics are off.